Hi, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. I hope everyone is excited to learn a little bit about my experiences with gardening. First of all, I just want to make sure that you all can hear me okay. Just, maybe raise your hand if you can hear me. I think, okay, yeah, okay. Okay, I'm still learning how to do this, to work with this. Um, Vicky, are you still there? Okay.
Yes.
Um, I don't know if you can hear me. Okay,
Yes, Tracy,
so
everything
you all can hear me okay?
looks good.
Okay, okay, I'll begin. Okay, uh, as I said, I'm still learning how to do this. Okay, this is my presentation is from the ground up, growing healthy eaters, and I also my little cutesy little saying, all we're saying is give peas a chance. That's I thought that was cute, so I'd throw it in there. But this is, I guess I should have had a subtitle for it called Adventures in Gardening, just like Adventures in Babysitting, um, that 1980s movie. So this is basically one librarian's and one library's experience with gardening from the ground up. That's a pun because this is my experiences of never having gardened before in my life. And if I can do it, anyone can do it. This is our experience. Um, so basically, it is a community garden for youth in the North Lauderdale community and their families. Uh, the target audience was youth and their families. We originally targeted ages 7 through 17, but as we saw demand in people in the community, we opened it up to younger children as long as their parents or guardians were there supervising them. One of the things that when I do programming is I don't like to be exclusive of anyone, and so if we can find ways to include everyone, we do so. And by through this agreement, we very successfully expanded our target audience. Um, Here's a few of our objectives. The purpose was multifold. Uh, the cultivation of a sustainable youth garden. From Actually, we wanted something to not only educate and grow things, but something that we continue to use. We would continue to use the beds, grow things that we could use the seeds to keep planting more foods as well, and things that we could use like the gourds, anything gourd related, pumpkins or squash that you could use those the hollowed out vegetables is reusable in art projects, as you'll see in a moment. Food literacy, we wanted to promote and teach people what to eat, what not to eat, what's good for you, what's going to help you stay healthy. Helping youth development healthy food habits. Every This is not just gardening, it's also nutrition education. And as I will talk about, the My Plate, the choosemyplate.gov was one of the sources that we used uh, to um, to plan our programs and education around. And to also, we wanted to share information about the relationship between healthy eating and environmental responsibility in ways that encourage collaboration and community engagement. I don't know if I'm going to be able to see if you raise your hand, but please bear with me if I don't see you. But please ask questions as you need to. With any good programming, anything new to a library, we like to do a little bit of research to see what kind of need we would be meeting and if there is a need in the area. According to the CDC, uh, my that I can get you that link. You'll be able to have the archived version version as well as a copy of the presentation, but down at the bottom of the slide, that's the link to the CDC statistics that show that 65% of adults in the United States are overweight or obese, and 33% of children and adolescents are either obese now or at risk of becoming obese. So healthy eating habits start young. The library has, as a resource, we have a great reputation for trust and providing correct, up-to-date information and resources. Experiential learning, we know in the library that the traditional programs such as story time, toddler time, and things like that are being they're experimenting with the use of technology and more hands-on things. So our program, we wanted to be hands-on. So this would be something that the families, the participants would adopt as their own. And to establish a sense of community, identity, ownership, or stewardship. So we want to have a social bonding as being not the primary purpose of the program, but to be one of the extras that they come with this. Also, I want to reiterate that we do see here in these statistics and in my talking points that you see obese and overweight a lot. I'm opposed to body shaming and to making people feel bad about their weight. So we focus mostly on health, overall health. I'm opposed to this fight against obesity, but rather the fight towards good health, optimal good health. And taking a look at a SWOT analysis of our community, the North Lauderdale Southern Area community, which is not only the city of North Lauderdale, but you have people coming from Margate area, which is one of the local areas as well. But looking at statistics that compared to Florida statistics based on from 2009 to 2013, 21.3%, almost a quarter of the North Lauderdale population live below the poverty level of 16.3% of Florida. The housing income is lower than the median household income of Florida. It's $42,812. For a lot of places, this is not that big of a deal. It's that that's middle class income, but for the Southeast Florida area, that's not a lot of money, particularly if you have homes where there's 2 or 3 children or more and 1 or 2 parents. Almost half of the homes in North Lauderdale have languages other than English spoken at home, which is almost double the population of Florida. And if you notice in the little blue box, according to the census, obesity ranked higher among children and adolescents in Hispanic or Latino communities and Black or African American communities. And you see there about 90% or about 80% of the population fit those 2 demographic groups. So the need was there. Vision and planning. Everything that we like to do, we want to do it correctly. And we want to, it all starts with a great idea, right? So in 2014, I got promoted from part-time librarian to full-time status at North Lauderdale Library. And I saw this beautiful area in the library, outside the library rather. And so I approached my branch manager, and I was very fortunate to have somebody who would encourage the idea. Like a seed, a good idea needs to be watered and fed and and encouraged. So Jill, the branch manager, encouraged me to contact the Broward County Extension Office, which, come to find out, has a Master Gardener program. And this is where we began. And so this is my teacher, the person who teaches the teacher. The Extension Office put me in connection with the Broward County Cooperative Extension Service, who had me contact Ian Walensky from the Urban Farming Institute. Part of his and other master gardeners, part of their requirements to be in the program is to perform a community service. And so they provided community service training and support for our garden. Funding, the other section is that we have to, none of this is free, so we have to come up with money for it. So we have, with Broward County, through the Library Foundation, a grants administrator. So this grants administrator did a lot of the research and the paperwork for obtaining funding for the garden. So we applied in fall of 2014, and it wasn't until March of 2015 that we got the go-ahead to go ahead with our garden. The problem is, and let's not say problem, let's say challenges, that's more positive and less threatening, is that we had this $10,000, which we had to spend before the end of the year of December 31st. That's like 8 months on our garden and program. We had to justify with any grant, as you probably know, you have to justify your cost of every penny that you spend on this program. So we had a lot of work to do. Not only we get to spend money, but we also get to are required to be judicious and report it on a regular basis. So we had to work fast. So we had to create quickly a plan for gardening, as well as developing community partnerships. We have Broward County Library has a wonderful after-school mentoring program called After School at Your Library. So which at-risk children are taught after-school STEAM activities. So on Thursday afternoons, we used a target audience of around 18, approximately 18 of the students who are in the program, to teach them about programming. So they were from the get-go, from the planting stage rather. They were involved in watering and weeding and learning about how their food grows. So at this time as well, I planned for our summer reading program, and I'll tell you more about that later, and met some wonderful people who shared their information, their knowledge, like the Youth Environmental Alliance, which gave us a free butterfly garden, as well as provided at some really good prices some environment and nutrition and gardening programs. Henry the hamster came in, and we'll talk about how he was involved in our fall festival. And a few folks who you may have seen throughout Florida, Professor Doodads, Susie Hammer, aka Pumpkin Patty, and Robin Friedland from Book and Cookin'. Phase 1. So we did this in 3 phases, corresponding with different planting seasons. So phase 1 took place during the spring of planting, phase 2 during the summer, and then fall planting, of course, was phase 3 in September. Well, you can't see me. I don't have my webcam working, but this fellow in the middle is me. That's Farmer Yossi, about the greenest gardener. And I'm talking about green as far as being new to it. My experience had basically playing in my grandmother's garden, shelling peas and shucking beans and all that good stuff. So Ian had a real novice on his hands. So the hardest part of the project by far is not the marketing or spending the money. It's you know, you probably guess it's the actual building of the beds. So you see here in uh, Ian's the bed of his truck. You see that we have the plywood for the two original beds. We have starter plants as well as seed plants and live soil. And I'll show you in just a few minutes that that soil is not just any old dirt or soil, but in it there's what we call permalite. And permalite is the little white specks of organic or live organisms which help the plant to grow very quickly, which is important when you're working on a time frame and you want to see as close as to immediate growth as possible results. This I'm really dangerous with the hammer, and I saw or a drill as well. So here is Ian creating the beds. I had originally wanted to use the back of the library, which was very lush and green, very shady, but I found out as part of the educational process is that you need 6 to 8 hours of sunlight, direct sunlight. So we had moved it to the side of the library. You see that there's grass. We see that you just have the 4 posts of the bed. To make the bed lining, when we cut open the soil bags, we use the soil bags to be the floor of the beds. So what's in there now, and the gardens are still growing and still being used, is the beds. The floor there is the original floor, the original bags. This is the soil. You see the little white spots in there? That is live organisms. What we did, we tied off spaces, squares for tomatoes, kale, beets, tomatoes, and peppers, as well as marigolds and other stuff. So in each square, a different plant, a different vegetable was planted. We did plant in the second bed without the squares directly into the soil the cabbage. The cabbage, as we'll talk about, grew very quickly, but all creatures great and small in the North Florida area really like the cabbage. And after a couple days or a couple weeks, this is what our plants look like. Started getting a little green. We were watering every day. You're going to see as time goes through that this green grass, it becomes brown, because unfortunately we were stuck in the time of a really bad drought. So we literally didn't get a drop of rain from May to like July. So some of these we were fighting an uphill battle, which here we are watering, and this is Ian. So Ian took us from all aspects of the gardening phase, including the watering, which incidentally the children absolutely love to water. Is a good way for them to be involved. They start weeding and watering, and unfortunately they water each other as well. This is actually the very first program, one of the first impromptu programs during phase 1. I made caprese salads. So I just took things, and I did this with every nutrition program. Every time I offered a snack, which was every week, I would take vegetables or foods from the USDA food plate. Everything that from the plate would be included as a snack. So I made the little caprese salads with the mozzarella and basil and tomato and the olive oil or the balsamic vinaigrette. They didn't like it at first, but as I saw, as they started to learn more about vegetables and to be learning about the garden, their taste buds and their minds opened up. And I like this slide because this slide includes some of our kids as after school during the year. There's like 2 to 3 schools around. It all lets out. Everybody comes to the library. So we go from having like 50 people in the library to like 300 to 400. And so some of the kids are in the library until their parents come home, and they get into trouble. They get talking, their energy level gets high. And some of these kids here are some of the kids that would be needed to be engaged more. So they would come up to the reference desk and ask to help out in the library. And so they get to weed, and in this instance, I'm treating the vegetables for against pests. And you notice here on the side, in the first onto the left, the cabbage. See how far it's grown in the short time. First result, we wanted to grow things that would be very quickly grown, so they would have something. So we started with tomatoes, as among other things. So it was exciting to see this become this. Phase two began around the 1st of June, after school started, or after school let out. And so we decided to include our gardening activities as part of the summer reading. Every hero has a story. So each week we had parents, families, and children come in and do your basic gardening. But we did also have special programs. Susie Hammer and Robin Friedland, we were growing pumpkins, which we planted during the summer, which incidentally didn't go very well because, again, this is one of the plants that all creatures, great and small, in the North Lauderdale library area loved. So Susie Hammer came in and spoke about pumpkins, about how nutritious, that the nutritional value, the taste, the different things that people do with pumpkins. And Robin Friedland on the side here actually had the kids do some cooking themselves, and she taught how to create healthy crepes using things, again, and that were from the USDA food plate. Phase 3, this is where we do our fall planting. We also decide, we plant months in advance for our first annual fall festival. And we were also very fortunate to be the inaugural audience for Professor Doodad, my good friend Darren Castile. You'll see him at FLA every year. His Kid Fit, which is incidentally being used in part of the fitness summer reading programs throughout Florida. And so he came in September. But very important, I want you all to know, at this point, we started March as far as doing planting and the education of Farmer Yossi. In September, I was able to, without any help from Ian, to start planting the fall plants. You see, we went from 2 beds to 1, 2, 3, 4 beds. Our original beds were in towards the sides, toward the building, but we have 2 new beds here. So this is where we're going to start planting some new stuff. You see here we have between 14 to 18 weekly, which I thought was fantastic. And we also have parents and children working together as families. We have a father here or a caregiver. And the kids here are planting. You see, they should be having their gloves on, but some of them didn't. But we're going to see what do we have here? I think we had peas and carrots, basil. We did the seed planting. Lemongrass. See the big leafy things here? We're going to see in just, this stuff grows quickly within days. And in fact, during the week, we would have to cut it off because it would actually choke off a lot of the plants. But it has such a beautiful aroma. It smells good. And Ian and I would give suggestions about how you can take this lemongrass and make a lemongrass tea or other items, food items. And they absolutely, no encouragement was necessary, very little encouragement. Everyone just got in and started planting. And here we go. Here's our lemongrass plus some other stuff, some basil. And you see how tall the lemongrass has gotten? That was like maybe a week or maybe a week and a half or 2 weeks of growing. It grows really, really fast. And so we had to cut it off so it wouldn't choke the other areas, the other plants. And we did more watering. If you're doing this in your library, you want to bring a change of clothes, particularly during the summer, because you get wet, you get hot and nasty. But you see a lot of engagement here. And this is our kids again. So, Professor Doodads. Professor Doodads, it's a combination, his programs, particularly the Kid Fit, this new inaugural program, has a little bit of science experiments where he tells, demonstrates sugar, how sugar is harmful to the body, the risk. He shows what a pound of sugar looks like. Stuff that if you continue to drink sodas on a regular basis, what you're drinking is equivalent to that much of sugar. They had kids dancing and a lot of good stuff. So this kids, you see here, they're dancing and they're becoming physically fit. And each child got a medal saying that they completed or participated in the program. Incidentally, I have to say that the children did not even have to solicit their opinions of the programs, because they came up and they would suggest. I had one child, kind of a timid child, that said that this was the best library program he'd ever been to. You're welcome, Darren Castile. The Fall Festival, something I had never done again. We had never had a fall festival in this library. We had change in library staff as far as librarians. We had 3 new librarians kicking up the programming and the community outreach. So we decided to have a fall festival. We had the hamster, as well as a live from farm to table eating, eating aspect. And then we also had involved our friends at the library, who was tremendous support for gathering money and resources for the festival. They had a book sale as well. So it really became a community event. Team Henry, and this is one of my favorite groups, is a group of 5 or 6 college students who volunteer to go around to libraries and other area resources for families and children, and tell about fitness. They read a story about Henry the hamster, this Henry the hamster here, who becomes very lethargic and obese and can't keep up with his friends in the playing soccer and biking and everything, and he has to go to the doctor, who guides him on eating properly and proper nutrition. So Team Henry came in and did a little bit of dancing. Each child got a book, and Henry the hamster, they again showed them the differences between sodas and juice cocktails and pure juices as well. And this is a great group of kids that come in and spend their time. They don't get paid to do it. They volunteer. And we had arts and crafts. Part of, we like to tie everything with STEAM. Our weekly activities, we would do things like Bill Nye, we watched the Bill Nye the Science Guy's videos on digestion, the food cycle, how like a piece of wheat and a piece of meat were related, that the, the piece of wheat was eaten by a cow who gives milk, which is our dairy, and then also provides meat, as well as all aspects of digestion, food. We learned about how food is grown. We did an art project where where we gave them, because we were hoping to grow pumpkins, we gave them the life cycle of pumpkins, and they would do a drawing with a paper plate and little things that they would draw each aspect of the life cycle, of the growth cycle rather, of a growing pumpkin. And so that became an art and science portion of the STEAM. We planted pumpkins, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, in hopes that we would have pumpkins for each child to bring home, each family to bring home for Halloween. But the lizards love the pumpkins as much, and the caterpillars, because we got a free butterfly garden. So they completely, within a day's time, just destroyed our pumpkins. We're glad they enjoyed it. So we took some of our funds and got a really good discount on baby pumpkins, which they brought home, and they did little craft projects. And they also created masks as well. And then the big event during the one-day fall festival was our From Farm to Table presentation. Ian Walensky, incidentally, your master gardener, a good master gardener like Ian is going to be a very good resource, not just for education of your librarian and library staff, but as well as providing programs, nutrition and gardening programs, sitting around different holidays, different events, different things such as Earth Day. We also created bedded, like little tiny beds where they grew basil and they could put in their window and water and get sunlight. Like they were like mini glass houses. But Ian created the most delicious, I call live salads. Salads that were just not merely salads, but just each vegetable that was used to create enhanced it, and each one was very much tasted and enjoyed. So those same people, and the plus more from the program, parents and families alike, not only ate every bit of their salads, but they went up for seconds and thirds. Many of these were the same kids who eschewed and stuck their nose up at my caprese salads. Or maybe my caprese salad just wasn't attractive. Who knows? But they really saw the value of those vegetables. So at this point, I'll talk about our successes and not failures, but challenges, things that we learned along the way. Along the way, we grew very successful in growing our foods. We grew our cabbage. You saw real cabbage, but the cabbage leaves, unfortunately, had lots of holes because little creepy crawlies, little lizards and reptiles really enjoy those leaves. We grew those tomatoes as well as the marigolds and things, and they successfully grew. Corn, unfortunately, just died at the beginning after we got it growing from seed to a little part. The sun just killed it. We weren't expecting a late watering season. One of the successes, as part of a grant, as you all probably know, that you do have to gauge success during different aspects of the program. So after phase one, which was right after school ended, we asked the after school at your library students the following questions. Number one, why is it important for you to eat vegetables rather than candy? And number two, what snacks will you choose to eat over the summer? And their responses, which they came up on their own without any prompting, specified that it showed that they clearly were learning what was being taught, and they're seeing the value of vegetables. What snacks do you eat during the summer? Fruits, vegetables. So we were seeing some good success. Here's my caprese salad. Well, this isn't the exactly caprese salad, but you see that the caprese salad at the beginning they hated, but by after May, from March to May, they learned enough about vegetables, about nutrition, that they had open taste buds and open minds. Challenges, again, the heat. It's very, very, very hot down here. So you have to think about watering and what kind of things to plant that are heat resistant. Being in Florida, regardless of what your irrigation, what watering plan you have, during the summer, of course, you're going to have heat resistant plants is what you would want. The little creepy crawly on the right, that is another one of the creatures that loved our plants as much as we did. These are some examples of the damage that those little guys can do. You see on the top left the kale that has those holes, and in our broccoli they got really bad. So to combat that, we with organic, environmentally conscious, anti-pesticides, or the pesticides rather, I'm sorry. And they kind of didn't work, so eventually what we had to do by the end of the summer was put mulch down around the beds, and the mulch served as a deterrent for those little creepy crawlies from going to the grass and the trees to the plants themselves. Things that we learned about the community. The parents, we have a very, very supportive parent part of the community, and they wanted their children to learn both academically and physically about food and how to make wise choices regarding their diets. They were really, really attracted to the idea that we were tying STEAM activities with gardening. We discovered also that it was a very good community bonding experience. People got to know one another, and by the end of the program, the families were adopting time to take care of the plants, the gardens, which was exactly what we were hoping them to do. Right partnerships. We've been talking for a long time about libraries reaching out and collaborating with community partners, and this program really would not have done as successfully if we did not have the community partnerships like Ian Walensky, Book and Cookin, Susie Hammer, Kids Fit. We had the right people, the right partnerships. We became friends, we became networks, and we've been able to recommend one another to each other, to our fellow librarians and the community as well. So it was a very good experience in partnering. Why start a garden? There's a lot of reasons to start a garden. Nutritional literacy, teaching your kids about food, about healthy eating, about how food grows. You can all tie it in with STEAM, science, technology, engineering, art, and math. The possibilities are endless. And everything, each week, as I had mentioned earlier, they got snacks, and all of the snacks were coming from the USDA food plate. So the USDA foodplate.gov has some wonderful, wonderful recipes, and I share those with the families. and for, most of them, those with very few exceptions, were recipes that the kids themselves with with or without parental supervision. Environmental awareness, environmental being green is very very, it's a big push. So the Butterfly Garden provided a really good experience with that. Good opportunity to learn with hands-on. Nutritional literacy, we had some wonderful, delicious foods that just took me just minutes to make. I took I reinvented the s'more and made a healthy s'more. I put we would take the graham crackers, which incidentally was recommended by the USDA food plate. And we took berries and yogurt or bananas or apples, and we made a healthy s'more. I had a wonderful version of a alternative to a banana split or a parfait or ice cream sundae would be the berry banana parfait. You see on the left bottom here, we took berries like blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, bananas, granola, and layered it with the fat-free vanilla yogurt, and that was yummy. They loved it, and we repeated that one. Something else that I did that I thought was very good, I just came up with, was a morning breakfast. One time I set out a table. I bought Cheerios, which was your grain. The cereals was your grain aspect of the USDA food plate. We had milk and fruit to go, fresh fruit to go into the cereal. One of our regular families was a grandmother and her two grandchildren. One of them being a very finicky eater that had to be coerced and controlled to eat and try new things. He ate everything that was given to him, and the grandmother was very surprised, and that was one of our huge success stories. Environmental awareness, the Butterfly Garden from the Youth Environmental Awareness Program, Kristen Haas came in, and as a group we all planted plants such as milkweed and other things that would attract caterpillars and butterflies, which unfortunately loved our pumpkins and our other gourd plants and basically destroyed them, but they did provide some benefits for the soil. STEAM, again here a few things. There's Professor Doodads, Bill Nye the Science Guy. You have a lot of resources in your library to plan your program, in particular, the Bill Nye videos as well, and also, contact your extension office as well. The bottom right, we have Youth Environmental Awareness had a Loco for Cocoa program, and so we actually created healthy cocoa using honey rather than refined sugars, and we also learned where cocoa came from and the importance of being aware and fighting to keep the rainforests alive and well. In retrospect, at the end we looked at our goals to determine success. We gauged it both during the course of the program as well at the end of the program. So our goal, the first goal, was we wanted to build 4 above ground garden beds, which were 8 feet by 10-inch deep, made from Florida pine. We planned that at the west side of the library. We start out with 2 during the spring season and then put 2 more during the fall 2015 season. We planted starter plants and seed packs. Some of these items we were not able to grow, or we didn't get around to it, like the cantaloupes and watermelon. Summer squash, unfortunately, were eaten by our little friends, but we had tomatoes, cucumbers, pole beans, peppers. We didn't grow the mustard or the onions, but okra, radish and sweet potatoes. No, we didn't grow the sweet potatoes. I'm sorry. That was one of the plants, but we didn't get around to it. Goal 2 was to help youth develop healthy eating habits. Using that good old USDA food plate with the recipes, the possibilities are endless and have been endless. So there are so many different ways of teaching it, and I think the most successful was letting them taste it and then teaching them how we created it and how they can create it and replicate it. So you're engaging your parent and you're engaging the children as well. Importance of food literacy. We did have the book in cooking. Not only did it have stories and physical activity, but there were games. We also hands-on food literacy. We wanted to share information about the relationship between healthy eating and environmental responsibility. In Youth Environmental Alliance, they had the Loco for Cocoa. They provided the free plants, the free butterfly garden, as well as these wonderful programs. We had the magic of butterflies, which we talked about the life cycles and the components of the habitat. We also, after I was promoted and someone else took over the program, they had a program on digestion that taught about the digestion. Again, science tie-in, and we also had covered that as well in Bill Nye. Starting your own garden, there's a few questions that you need to ask to determine if this is going to be doable for you. Is there interest? How will the garden benefit the community? There's multiple benefits, but you also want to look at your community and see if there's something particular about the particular demographics, like we did with the high risk for obesity and other conditions in our demographics. You have to have enough staff. If you have in a little teeny tiny library, you may not have adequate staffing originally at first. You have to determine how much support you'll get from the extension office. Perhaps there are people who have gardened before. We had a gentleman in our library that had gardened before, so he provided some guidance as well when we had little issues that we had questions about, and he actually helped us with watering and weeding as well. Again, you're contacting the county extension office, may have master gardeners willing to help. Tying in your garden with STEAM and other programs, summer reading. For this summer, I don't know if it's doable for you all at this time, but you may want to tie it in with the fitness component, the fitness theme of summer reading. Identify your resources. Where am I going to put the garden? Will I will have enough sunlight? How are we going to fund it? How much support can I get from the Friends of the Library? What does the county or the local government have to offer? You need to find a site, funding, programming. Your community partners are going to make it so easy. I mean, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be a lot of work. But they're going to educate you, and they're also going to help you create wonderful programs and wonderful gardens as well. Grant resources, I won't go over these a lot, but here's some that you can, I can send you my presentation, and it's also being archived as well. A few tools, I mean, these are, some of them are pretty common sense and you're general. There's some things that you may not know about: trolls, hard forks or claw cultivators, pruners, watering cans, or sprinklers. Also check with your business building services to see if you have sprinklers set up, or where you can attach a hose. Find out how it's all being watered, because if you don't have to water the hand water, and you can time your watering for them to get adequate watering during the week and during the day, it's going to make it easier. So all you would need to do is do weeding in the meantime. Gloves, closed-toe shoes, hat, sunscreen, and water. You're going to see a lot of pictures of people not having all this stuff in, but again, tell them how to better protect themselves from the sun, as well from creepy crawlies and from ants and other little critters that like to bite flesh. And a place to store your tools, like a bucket, or that actually Home Depot has these little bins that you can put your tools in. Here's a few garden grant resources from Gardening Matters, from NC Community Garden, the American Community Garden Association, and the American Dietetic Association. And a couple of books for butterfly gardening, and here's a bibliography of agriculture and local gardening see what's going on in school libraries as well. And there's the National Garden Bureau as well. Okay, do I have any questions? I'm trying to determine if there are any. Vicky, are you still here?
Hi, Yurtsi. Yes, if you go down to the bottom of your control panel and open it up, the questions are coming in at the bottom in the chat section.
Okay. Okay. In the chat. Okay. Oh, the web addresses and the bibliography items are okay. Yes, I can send you the webs the full PowerPoint, which will have it on there, or the archive, so I can send that to you as well. Vicki, did you want to give them my email address, or are you going to send me email addresses of people who were part of the program, of the webinar?
I'll be happy to forward it on for you.
Perfect. I think, Sarah, I answered your question about will the resources be available afterwards. Cool. And I'm just looking to make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, and I'm new at doing this webinar as far as a facilitator, so awesome. Okay, so anyone else? And then you also feel free to call me or send me an email. I'm very happy to share information as we librarians are. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Are you all thinking about whether this would be something for you? Has this put any kind of ideas in your head? Oh, great. Wendy, what library are you with? Ah, very nice. Alachua County. Well, if you all ever want to take a day trip, well, for some people in Florida, it may be an overnight trip. I can arrange to show you the garden at that particular library that we had. So, but otherwise, I'm gonna type in my phone number. And my email address. And you know what, Lee? Um, I was such a novice at this. As far as food, I make reservations when it comes to making meals, and but I was able to do a garden with having very little, and I mean very little experience. So don't let the aspect of not being trained or not being knowledgeable. This is something that you learn. It's the learner being taught, or the teacher teaching the teacher. That's was my experience with Ian, the master gardener. And great opportunity. I cannot reiterate enough, you all, that community partnerships are going to make your job infinitely easier, infinitely easier. And this it gives you, and it helps out with your pool of uh, performers or program resources as well. We got about, I guess, about 2.5 minutes for a couple more questions. I think we made really good time, Vicki. Okay. Oh, you're welcome. You have my information, Lee. What library are you with? Oh my goodness, you must know my really good pal. Um, oh, you're welcome, Sarah. Sarah Falvey. She and I are on some FLA uh, committees together. Tell her I said hello. Okay, if that's all the questions, this is the end of the webinar. You're welcome, Sarah. And please don't be shy about contacting me. I love sharing my resources with you, okay? Thank you so much for your time, you all.